It's the JT the Brick Show.
This is the silver and black. This is the Raiders. This is a historic franchise. This is no ordinary job.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years.
I don't care if I offend somebody. If it isn't right, I'm going to stop practice. We're going to do it the right way.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
Can I ask you, what's the expectation of the Raiders this year? What are you expecting? Are you expecting good things, or is it still early?
I'm expecting. I would expect a lot of improvement from where it's been. I mean, last year we were just underperformed in every area, and it's everybody's fault. That's the reality. There's nobody who did a good job. There's not one player in the organization. There's not anybody involved that did the job to the level that needs to be done at, and everybody needs to improve. And it starts with me, and it filters down to the rest of the players in the field, and they got to go out there and ultimately they got to perform at a high level.
But would that be win 5, 6, 7 games, playoffs, or is that all a bit?
I mean, I don't
think
just improvement, just a massive improvement.
A massive improvement, and I would expect daily improvement, and I'd expect hourly improvement.
That was Tom Brady laying it bare. Starts with me, and then it filters down from that point on. Everybody's got to do better. Last year was not acceptable. I didn't do a good job. Nobody did a good job. It needs to be better. What are the expectations for the Raiders this year? Not quite sure in terms of wins and losses, but improvement. An improvement not just on a day-to-day basis or a game-to-game basis, but literally an hour-to-hour basis. And at the risk of patting ourselves on the back over here at Raider Nation Radio, JT the Brick, the morning show. By the way, this is Vinny Bonsignore, and I am sitting in for the great JT the Brick from noon to 12 today. Want your thoughts, 702-365-9200. Got Kirk Morrison, former Raider linebacker, NFL linebacker, coming up at 12:30. The great Sam Gordon from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, who's kind of sort of replaced me at the Review-Journal. Crazy to say that, weird to say that, but Sam's one of my really good friends. He's coming in at 1:30. He covers the Raiders for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, but we're starting off with Tom Brady and being asked about the expectations for this year and what he expects to see happen. And he didn't put any number in terms of wins and losses on it, which I think was wise on his part. But he did say emphatically need to see significant improvement, a lot of improvement. And how do you measure that? Well, you measure that by being better from an hour-to-hour basis, a minute-to-minute basis, a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis, a month-to-month basis, eventually a game-to-game basis. But you don't even think about the game-to-game basis right now. It's not about that right now. And I've been stressing this for the longest. I know we've talked about it on the Morning Tailgate Show. I know Q talks about it. I know JT the Brick talks about it. You can't think about wins and losses right now. The Raiders are in a place right now where it's literally what Tom Brady just said. It's improving by the hour. How do you do that? You dominate, I keep saying it, your very next step. That's all you can control in life. Forget about the Raiders. Forget about, the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers, who are trying to get better right now, as far as the offseason, the free agency starts tomorrow. You have the draft. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing anybody can do about a month down the line or a game in September or a game in October. There's nothing you can do about that part of the future other than dominate the present, dominate what you can control, your very next step in life, your very next decision in life, your very next meal, what you put in your body, where, taking care of yourself, from a health standpoint, doing the best you can at the job that you have, doing the best that you can if you're in summer school right now, doing the best you can to be the best version of yourself, the best husband, the best father, the best boyfriend, the best girlfriend, the best mom, the best aunt, whatever the case is, whatever is right there in front of you. Just be present and try to dominate it the best that you possibly can. And the more that you do that, as Tom Brady just said, improving each hour, if you can keep improving by the hour. I know that sounds, oh, come on, really? Do you got to focus that much? Well, yeah, if you want to be really good. And in a broader sense, if you want to be successful, you do have to be the very best version. That doesn't mean you can't go home, crack open a cold one, whatever it is that you do, go, get on PlayStation for a little unwind, watch some good TV, go out for a nice meal. You don't, obviously you have to in life reward yourself. You can't just be regimented 24/7. That has a bad opposite effect of what we're talking about. But when you are on your job, when you are on the clock, and even on your life clock in terms of, trying to be better, being healthier, all of those types of things, the only thing I should say that you can control literally is the very next decision that you make, how you approach whatever it is that is sitting there in front of you. And so from the Raiders' perspective, there's nothing that they can do right now about beating the Miami Dolphins on opening day. There's nothing they can do about week 4 against the Kansas City Chiefs. There's literally nothing they can do right now to alter, change, dictate, whatever the outcome of any of those games. But what they can do by dominating the next step, the next minute, the next sequence, the next time you're in the weight room, the next decision John Spytek has to make, the next big trade offer that might come his way or whatever, opportunity to get better, opportunity to improve the roster. If you're a player, opportunity to get out there and continue to work, to use these next couple of weeks, these next few weeks, to be the best version of yourself come training camp. Whether it's Fernando Mendoza out there working and throwing around with some teammates, still coming into the building for workouts, and everything that you can control at this stage will at the very least, put you in a much better position when the season opener does occur. But you don't even think about that right now. It's so far out there, though it's barreling toward us in warp speed in another sense. But but you cannot be focused on that right now. You can think about it, you can dream about it, you can imagine, and I'm a firm believer in trying to imagine and visualize success happening in your life, whether it's a football game, whether it's a job opportunity, whether it's a test that's coming up at school. I firmly believe in positive thinking and conjuring up and visualizing positive outcomes. I truly believe in that. But it's one thing to just visualize it. You still have to go out there and do something about it. And right now, without the benefit of being able to go out there on a Sunday, or if you're the Golden State Warriors or the Lakers or whoever else that's in off-season, the Golden Knights, you can't get on the ice and go play a game right now. But what you can do is improve as a player. You can improve as an organization. You can improve as a coach. You could be better prepared for all those moments that are going to occur down the road. But I'm a firm believer of this. This is why I really appreciate Tom Brady and what he said in terms of be better by the hour. What you can do is really challenge yourself and mandate from yourself the best that you have to give in this hour. And the next thing that you have to do from a human standpoint, from a professional standpoint, whatever that can be, and you don't skip steps. You don't go from point A to point Z. It's never worked like that. Life never works. There's no overnight sensations. I don't care who you want to bring up as an overnight sensation. There was usually a whole bunch of steps that nobody ever saw, that only that particular person saw, that led up to that moment where they became the quote-unquote overnight success. But you know why they became an overnight success, quote-unquote? It's because they were prepared for the moment, because they were doing so many other things that led up, and they didn't skip steps, and they dominated each and every next step. And I think that that's what the Raiders' focus right now needs to be. And I think that even if, as a Raider fan, as much as you want them to win this year, and I'm right there with you, I want that more than anything for Raider Nation. You guys have been through a lot these last however many decades. Fabian, if you're listening, let me know how many decades it's been, and then some. Raider 66, let me know, 702-365-9200, how long this has been. But whether you've been a fan for 1 year or 30 years, you know what I'm talking about, and you deserve to win. But I don't even think that this is the time to be thinking about wins and losses. It's about, if you're the Raiders and if you're trying to visualize something positive for this team that you've devoted so much to, be focused and hope that they are focused, which I believe that they are, and it does start from the top when Tom Brady is talking the way he's talking. Trust me, players are listening. Everybody in the building is listening, as they should. He is the leader, as he said. It starts with him, but it doesn't end with him. And whatever his words are in terms of that improvement, that daily improvement, that minute-by-minute improvement, that hour-by-hour improvement is a message that I think is being heeded throughout the building with whatever it is that you do for the organization, player, trainers, coaches, the guys and girls that cut up the film, that film practices. Everybody needs to be the best version of themselves for this to truly work. And when it does come down to the wins and losses, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. It's hard to predict what that is going to look like. But I do truly believe that regardless of what the record looks like, the whole thing is going to look better because I think the focus is where it needs to be. It's not on that finish line. And the finish line, right now, when you think about the finish line, if you want to make the finish line the Super Bowl, that's way out there. If you want to talk about the finish line being, completing every single game, 17 games this year, in the best possible fashion for the Raiders, I don't know what that's going to mean in terms of wins and losses, but I can tell you this: if that is the focus, and they're taking business, and they are adhering to every next step along the way, and taking that each step seriously, and not overlooking one for the next or 6 steps down the road. There is going to be improvement. I don't know what that might look like. Maybe you guys can let me know what you think that would look like in terms of the record. 702-365-9200. You could give us a call. You could set it on the text line. I don't know what that is necessarily going to look like, but I do believe that there's going to be significant improvement one way or another, and we're going to be able to see that. And I want to give it's interesting with Tom Brady, and I know that we've talked about this in the past, and I go back. There was a pivotal moment for me that occurred this season, and those of us that were covering the team on a day-to-day basis, you can tell pretty early on that there was I don't want to say necessarily dysfunction, but I do, but there were a couple of different scripts that people were operating under last year that weren't in line with each other. And, I guess in retrospect, when you think about it, Pete Carroll at his age, I think it was probably naive for some of us to think that, he was going to be on that script of this is going to take a while and let's focus on the next step and not 10 wins, which was way out there. And that's what I do, and that's what my goal is, to win 10 games and be as I always have done. That's how many wins I average, and that's what we're going to do. And it felt like every decision that was made, and he had a huge say in those decisions, the most pronounced say in those decisions, kind of reflected that outcome, and not what was for the betterment of the team as a whole and the organization as a whole, which was forget about the 10 wins. Let's use each and every step, each and every roster decision, every decision that we make on playing time, all of that for the betterment of this organization for a long duration. And unfortunately for Pete Carroll at his age, 73 years old, I mean, he just didn't have the luxury of that kind of time. And I don't know what he said in the job interview and whether he signed off on a long-range plan, but then once, got in there, kind of changed course. But it was pretty obvious, long story short, that there was a differing of opinion. There was a couple of different scripts that were going on last year that people were working under. And the pivotal moment for me it was when the Raiders hosted the Dallas Cowboys on a Monday night. And if you remember, there were 2 occasions that Tom Brady was in the building to watch the Raiders live, and they were both Monday night games at Allegiant Stadium. It was second week of the season against the Chargers, and then whatever week that was against the Dallas Cowboys. And by the time that Cowboys game came around, everything was pretty much, we all knew that where this season was headed. It was just a bad situation by that point, right? And the reason that Tom could only be there on Mondays was because he worked, obviously, on Sundays. But I remember somebody from the organization before the game said to me, this is going to be kind of an eye-opener for Tom. He's going to see it firsthand how kind of quote-unquote bad this really is, which could be a good thing. He needs to see it. He needs to see where this is live, not on film, not in retrospect, but kind of in real time. Feel the energy that was in the building. See what was going on out on the field. See how far away this team was, and maybe some of that dysfunction that I was talking about. And I just remember tucking that away, and we all know what the outcome of that game was. I forget what the score is, but whatever the score was, it wasn't indicative of how badly the Raiders got beat in that game, or the disparity between the Cowboys and the Raiders. And quite honestly, the Cowboys went like they were a great team, right? They didn't make the playoffs. They didn't have a great season by their standards, but they were that much better than the Raiders. And it happened on a Monday night on a big stage. It was kind of another embarrassing sort of blow for the Raiders. But what I felt, not to say that Tom Brady and the Raiders didn't understand by that point kind of where they were and some of the changes that need to be made, but there's something to be said about experiencing it firsthand, and Tom Brady did that night. And I always thought to myself, I don't know Tom Brady personally. I've had a few interactions with him, but it's pretty easy to tell based on interviews, based on life choices that he's made, the excellence that he has stood for as a professional athlete, as a businessman. I feel like he's gotten better, really a lot better in time as a broadcaster, which I always felt like somebody that has the kind of pride and expectation for himself. He wasn't going to just settle for not being very good or sounding like a beginner at the early stages of his broadcasting career, and listening to himself and going back and critiquing himself and taking advice from other people. I intuitively knew, well, that's not going to be what he is as a broadcaster. If you're judging him on his first season or his first 8 games or whatever, he's going to get better. Why? Because he cares like that. Not everybody does, but he's one of those type of people that does. So I figured that he was going to get better. In every realm of his life, it's been about championships. Let's be honest about that. Business sense, the decisions that he's made in that world, and obviously him as a player. And so what I remember about that night going, well, if he's seeing this and being honest about it, which why wouldn't he? Knowing that his I always call it his NIL, his name, image, and likeness is now without a doubt attached to the Raiders' success or failures. It's going to be to as long as he's part of this organization and as long as he has the role that he has. And he doesn't need to hear this. He knows it. His name, image, and likeness is all over this. So when you think about the success of the Raiders moving forward, he's going to be somebody that you think about. He's going to get, rightfully so, whatever praise is coming to him. If it's not working, the opposite occurs. He's a big boy. He knows that. If you're going to step into that realm, whether you're a player, a coach, a this or that, an executive, you're going to get judged. That's how life works. I remember having a conversation with Kobe Bryant, and we were discussing my role as a journalist, and at the time I was a columnist during probably the second half of his career. So as a columnist. And that's a different job than being the beat writer. The beat writer, you report the news, you report the game story, what's going on, who got cut. As a columnist, you're kind of putting your spin on things. That's your job. Your job is to be critical. Your job is to write, fun stories, good stories. But sometimes you're going to have to point out when somebody didn't do well. And, I know that it's easy for people to say, oh, just write it and do it. It's when you have to not confront people, but when you have to write a story that's very critical about somebody, if you have any sense of professionalism at all, you go to the locker room the next day or at the earliest possible moment, and so that you're accountable for whatever your opinion was, whatever your criticism was. You're not hiding from that behind a keyboard or by not showing up to Staples Center or to Inglewood or El Segundo for practice or whatever clubhouse, whatever locker room we're talking about, whatever facility we're talking about. If you're going to write something critical, if you're going to call for somebody's job, if you're going to point out how somebody blew the game, you better to your, if you have any sense of professionalism, you show up. And, if that person wants to talk to you about it, if that person wants to get into your face about it, if that person wants to have a conversation about it, you have to be adult enough to talk it out if it comes to that, and that has happened. So we're talking, and, I kind of explaining what I'm explaining to you guys. And Kobe said to me, look, if I screw up, you need to write that. I totally get that. I totally understand it, as you should. That's your job. And if I screw up, I'm not going to sit here, as much as I don't want to read about screwing up. I understand that it's part of it. Like, I screwed up. That's fair game, and you should. And I'm never going to have a problem with that, other than I was the one who put myself in that position by screwing up. But on the other hand, and this was his words, it's when you're gratuitous, not me, but in an overall sense, it's when people are gratuitous with it. What does gratuitous mean? When you just do it. When you just, get a hammer in your hand and start, slamming everybody for no apparent reason, just because, hey, that's what, you do. You want to get clicks. You want to be the tough guy. You want to be this. It's always criticism. It's always sarcasm. It's always, and so when it's not real and still doing that, and as Kobe said, that's when I have a problem, when it's not valid. And I totally understand that. So from Tom's perspective, seeing what he saw on that night against the Dallas Cowboys, assessing the entire situation last year, there's no way that he was ever going to sit back and say, well, it's fine, it's okay, there's not a whole lot of work that we need to do. No, he was going to be in a sense embarrassed, all right, or just, even if that's not the right emotion or term to use, he was going to hold himself accountable, and he was going to hold everybody accountable, and there was going to be accountability, and there was going to be, and this is the key to it all, how do we learn from this? All right, a couple things. To expect Tom Brady to just master being in the role that he was put in, or asked for, or assigned, however you want to put it, I think that was unrealistic as well. There's not, you don't just go from being a player to being a team executive and in charge of a whole bunch of things, coaching hires, personnel decisions, et cetera, or having a major voice in that. Very few people are able to just do that and dominate it from the get-go. There's going to be a learning curve. There's a lot to learn in that role. It's a different role than just being a player. And so there was going to be a little bit of a learning curve. And sometimes that learning curve occurs when you're winning, and sometimes it occurs when you're losing. You're always going to learn, from start to finish. And this is the very beginning, I'm sure, of his role. And so he's going to be different 10 years down the line, let alone 1 year down the line. But the key to me was, are you going to be honest about it? Which I felt like, because of his professionalism, because of the excellence that he stands for in his life, professionally and personally, professionally and personally, that no, of course he was going to be accountable, and of course he was going to heed what happened and try to be better for it. And so that was a question that I had. I mean, you can assume that was going to happen. You can think it was going to happen. But until it actually happens in action and not just in words or in feeling, it was always going to be left to, okay, but is he? I think he is. It's Tom Brady. Why wouldn't he? Of course. He stands for greatness in everything that he does. Of course he's not going to stand for this. And of course he's going to look himself in the mirror. What do we do? What do we do right? What do we do wrong? Plenty was done wrong, as he just said. And it wasn't good enough by anybody in the organization. So what are you going to do to make it better? And I think that, first and foremost, immediately moving on from Pete Carroll, and that wasn't the easiest thing to do, it was the most obvious thing to do, but it's Pete Carroll, and say what you want about Pete Carroll, but he had nothing but good intentions when he became the head coach of the Raiders. And I know, I've talked to him about this, he knew one way to do it, which was the way that had worked for him at every stop of his career. Imagine that. You go, every time you start something, a new team, especially USC, then Seattle, nothing but success. Super Bowl appearances, Super Bowl championship, multiple national championships. And if you don't remember where USC was when he took over, trust me, put it this way, he was like the 6th, 7th choice to be the head coach. Why? because 6 other coaches said, "Hell no, I'm not going to USC." Have you seen where USC is right now? I'm not going to USC. They're a laughingstock right now. They're down on their luck. Pete Carroll comes in and wins, and so that wasn't. Pete Carroll is a man of respect, and I know it ended badly last year. It was never good to start off with, but it just was in retrospect a square in a round hole. And but the fact that Tom said, okay, look, and it was a mistake. We got to do something about that. And getting rid of firing Pete Carroll was step one in what was beyond proof that, okay, they understand that there was a mistake made and they learned from that mistake, and now they're going to go and do something about it, which is what they did in getting Clint Kubiak, and then setting off just one of the great off seasons that I can remember of any team. And I'm not just saying that because I covered it in real time. You go around the league and you ask and talk to people about what the Raiders have done, from the coaching change to the personnel changes in free agency to the draft, bringing in Fernando Mendoza. It's like, okay, these are good moves. It's easy to criticize the Raiders. It's always been easy to criticize the Raiders, even in real time. There were draft picks. Alex Leatherwood, were going, what? Damon Arnett, that wasn't a universally hailed move whatsoever. It was like panned. It was like, what are the Raiders thinking drafting Damon Arnett that high in the first round? Nobody had Alex Leatherwood going in the first round. So this isn't just, whatever the Raiders do in real time is great, and then you judge them after it doesn't work and say, well, that was a dumb move. Well, were you saying it was a dumb move at the time? Because a lot of people were. In this case, you look at what the Raiders have done, and you're like, there's not really anything not to like about that. Anyway, I want your thoughts, 702-365-9200, on what you heard from Tom Brady in terms of the learning and in terms of doing something about it, and the standard of excellence that he's setting, not on a game-to-game basis yet, but an hour-to-hour basis. Give us a call, 702-365-9200. It's JT the Brick Show. I'm Vinny Bonsignore.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by The Black Hole. Become a member of football's most notorious fans.
And can I ask you, what's the expectation of the Raiders this year? What would be, what are you expecting? Are you expecting good things, or is it still?
I'm expecting. I would expect a lot of improvement from where it's been. I mean, last year we were just underperformed in every area, and it's everybody's fault. That's the reality. There's nobody who did a good job. There's not one player in the organization. There's not anybody involved that did the job to the level that it needs to be done at. And everybody needs to improve. And it starts with me, and it filters down to the rest of the players on the field, and they got to go out there and ultimately they got to perform at a high level.
But would that be win 5, 6, 7 games, playoffs, or is that all a bit?
I mean, I don't think
just improvement, just a massive improvement.
A massive improvement, and I would expect daily improvement, and I'd expect hourly improvement.
Vinny Bonsignore sitting in for JT the Brick. We are here until 2 o'clock. That was Tom Brady talking about last year, expectations for this year, and who better than Kirk Morrison, our good friend Kirk Morrison, and former Raider linebacker, NFL linebacker, to talk about that very thing. Kirk, you just heard, first of all, thanks for joining us. I always appreciate it, brother. You just heard Tom Brady kind of laying it bare right there. It wasn't good enough. Nobody in the building was good enough last year as a player. And now as somebody that observes this team, when you hear it from the top, and Tom Brady is basically the top when we think when from a football standpoint, football operations standpoint. As a player, how do you digest what he just said? And is it not necessarily being put on notice, but I would imagine that catches the attention of a lot of people in that building.
Yeah, I think that's something that we that. As a former player, the first thing that I thought about was that last year just was not good enough for everybody.
You can maximize that very next hour when you're on the clock, right?
Yeah, it's about dominating the day. And so I think that's what Tom is kind of alluding to. Like, everything that you do has a purpose. Everything that you're a part of when you walk in that building, it has to be about a purpose. It's not just going through the motions. It's getting better by the hour, by the minute. Like, always, I always used to talk about my guys who went to Florida State, because they would always say 2%, 2%, 2%, or 1%. I'm like, okay, but it was ingrained in them that every day you touch the field, we got to be 1%, 2% better than we were the day before. And if you start stacking those days, you don't realize how much better you've become. And I think that's what Tom was really saying, because it got me the first time that I heard that. And I was like, Tom Brady is basically saying, look, we got to get better. And we know what the long-term goal is. And you see he didn't put a number on wins. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to put a number on how many wins it is. Is it 6? Is it 7? You want to see better. That's all you want to see. And I go back to, I believe it was that Jared Goff's first or second year with the Detroit Lions, where, you know, they were really bad in the beginning, but some kind of way they found a way to turn things around, and they, you know, beat the Green Bay Packers on a Sunday night to end the season. And for a team that was still under 500, you just knew that they were better. They didn't have maybe the win-loss record, but they were a better football team. And then obviously the next year they go and qualify for the playoffs and all that stuff. So I'm looking at the same thing for the Raiders. You'll know what better looks like, because last year that was a 3-win football team that just didn't look like they were able to compete week in and week out. That's why I want to see them look better, much better. And I'll be looking at that during training camp as well. I think it'll be a noticeable difference than what we saw last season.
Well, our minds are thinking exactly the same, because that was literally going to be my next question. Of course, we're talking to the great Kirk Morrison. What are you focusing in on training camp? It feels like I got so many things in my notebook right now.
Oh, man.
To keep, yeah, exactly. And weirdly, Kirk, even coming off a 3-win season, I would say that it's more than it has been in a long time, because I like a lot of the rooms, and I feel like there's talent in a lot of these rooms where may not have been, in previous years. But there's a lot to digest, and I don't know where I'm going to necessarily start, but where are you going to start?
Oh, man, I'm starting all over the board, man. I mean, obviously, I think the offensive line, and I think one of the things that I've learned this throughout my time, not only just playing in the league, Vinny, but I think in my time as an analyst, that I really have to make sure I put down my Raider fandom, my pom-poms. I need to put them to the side, because I think a lot of times we have these Raider goggles on, these shields that make us look at certain players, and we have more, I think, faith, more belief in what that player could be. Mm-hmm. But yet in this league, we don't have that kind of time. Right. We don't have time to wait. You know, like Tyree Wilson, you knew right away this is probably not going to work. And he ended up last through 3 coaches. And yet at the end of the day, he's been traded away. Right. Like, we knew that from the beginning. Like, it's probably not going to work, but you stick with him because he's a first rounder. I say all of that to say that in my time with the Silver and Black, you know, my first 4 years, I played for 4 different head coaches. So to me, I had a mindset of I have to prove that I belong on this roster. And so with that being said, I fast forward to this day, currently, that's what these players have to prove. There is no scholarships out here right now. I think we can look at Eric Stokes, Max Crosby, Colton Miller, Ashton Genty. There's a select few guys.
Tyler Linderbaum.
Tyler Linderbaum, I mean, obviously Tyler, you know, the free agent guys. You
Brock.
Know what I mean?
But you're right. I mean, there's
like those
not a whole bunch of them.
It's not a whole bunch of them. There are going to be some surprises, I think, when we get to training camp on guys who may be released, who may be traded, because I feel like this may be, honestly, year 1 of the John Spytek, I think, regime. I think last year was a lot thrown at him in year 1. And for a first-time general manager, did the best that he could. But obviously, I don't know if he and Pete saw eye to eye, especially the way that those young players were drafted and played last year. So I really feel like how they've assembled this team so far, everybody's trying out. Everybody's trying out. And guys are trying to try out for roles. Yeah, those guys are going to be on the team, but I think their roles are being developed. And that's why I think going into training camp, I have this open mind of I'm not pinning anybody in as a starter. I think they'll make the team, obviously. But the starters, obviously, you mentioned Linderbaum and Colt Miller on the offensive line, but the other 3 spots, I mean, I'm not surprised, or I'm not shocked when they roll 3 or 4 different guys throughout a practice at those spots. Like, it's going to be competition, whether you're a guy who's been drafted in the last 2 years or with the previous regime. So I say that on all levels. I'm looking at who's going to be the corner opposite of Eric Stokes. I mean, how many corners do they carry? The defensive front. I mean, how many guys are going to be starting opposite Max Crosby? What does Kwity Paye fit in it? Like, I'm like you, Vinny. I have this note card that I'm still filling out that is so many little things that I can't wait to see how this all kind of reveals itself, like Clint Kubiak says, when training camp comes, because I think that this may be one of the toughest, cut downs that they'll ever have to make in the last 10 years, because this is going to be a team that is kind of geared up, I think, for the future of Clint Kubiak's, start time here as the head coach.
I agree with you. I'm going to throw something at you, though. I'm
Sure.
with you on the offensive line. I do think that there's going to be some interchanging going on early on. But I am a firm believer, Kirk, and I want your thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
As opposed to how it's been the last few years where that interchanging was pretty constant right on up until basically week 1, and in some cases beyond week 1, where there was interchanging, guys kind of coming in and out. And I truly believe that that disrupted what I feel is all important on an offensive line, and that's chemistry and that's cohesion.
Right.
I think, and I want your thoughts on this, they need to figure out as best as possible who that starting 5 is, who that best group of 5 is as early as possible, and let those guys get as much run together as possible in training camp to whatever extent they play in the preseason. Would you be on that side a little bit more than maybe they have been in the past? Because I feel like to start seasons the last few years, the offensive line was not ready to play as a unit.
Correct. Yeah. I see that point of thinking right there. Trying to get that 5 solidified as soon as possible. I just think that this competition is going to go on. So I think I'm giving, if I know people love deadlines, I'm giving my deadline will probably be. Yes, I bet you do as a guy who writes. But I feel like the kind of the timing or the deadline for me will be right around that August 20th date. That August 20th date to me is the joint practice / preseason game that week against the Houston Texans. I don't know if the Raiders are going to go against a better front 4, maybe 7 this season. I mean, I'm overhyping what the Houston Texans are. But if we're talking about ones on ones, you're talking about a test of where you are, and you're going to be in the preseason. And these are where the guys are getting reps. Like, I've been to these joint practices as a player. I know I'm going to get 3 or 4 reps in a preseason game. I'm just trying to do my job and get out of there, stay healthy. When it comes to the joint practice, it's a practice setting, but I'm looking over there at them dudes, and them dudes are looking over here at me. Like, Max Crosby was the dog, was the guy, and all of a sudden Danielle Hunter is on that side, right? Or you're looking at Will Anderson, who's now the newest highest paid defensive end in the National Football League. Like these guys are going to go and show out. And so I bring that up because the offensive line will get its test, and you'll know who that 5 will be. So that's the deadline, right? That's to me. Yeah. That Houston week during training camp will be the biggest week of the Raiders offseason by far. Because you'll know what this team is. Like, look, people are going to have the reports. This is just me being the get off my lawn guy. We're going to have reports when training camp starts, and this guy looks great. This guy looks awesome. Oh my God, this guy's been great. Meet me on August 20th. August 20th, let's have a conversation. Because you know what I mean? I don't care what happens before then, but by August 20th, we're going to have a conversation because we will know what the roster really is going to look like, especially with like less than a couple of weeks before training camp's over with.
I'm right there with you, Kirk. And we're talking to Kirk Morrison. Last one for you, Kirk. When I look at the quarterback quote-unquote competition, I'm looking at it less as a competition between Fernando Mendoza and Kirk Cousins and more as Fernando's running his race, and if it gets him to the starting line to start, the finish line gets him to start week 1, great. If not, he's still on his race. You got Kirk Cousins to fall back on. What are you going to be watching when it comes to Fernando Mendoza? And as you talked about, that getting better and stacking days and what you might see from him in week 1 or day 1 compared to August 20th in Houston?
Yeah, I want to just see him, how he operates the offense, getting guys lined up, ready to go. It'll be interesting because one of the hardest parts about evaluations is what team is he running with? Like if he's the running with the twos and he's running with this, this kind of the second string offensive line, you may not have that same cohesion as if he's running with the one offensive line or the number one offense. So I always tend to look at how many first team reps does he get, and then how many first team reps does he get in those joint practice situations? Because I do believe that he will play this year. I do have a feeling he will play. Now, It's up to Clint Kubiak and John Spytek when they feel like the time is going to be best for him, because if the Raiders had to play tomorrow or in 5 weeks and 6 weeks, Kirk Cousins is the man for the job.
Yeah.
But now as the season goes along, we'll see what that looks like. Are the Raiders winning where they're at? Are they struggling a little bit? Do they need a boost? Like, are they turning toward next? Like, the season will tell you all of that. It's hard to predict now. I just know that the competition of Kirk Cousins and then throwing in, obviously, Fernando Mendoza, but even Aiden O'Connell in there as well. Mm-hmm. I always feel like this, and you know this, Vinny, we go back a long time. I've been so, jaded from that time that when I first really started covering the National Football League from a team perspective with what Jeff Fisher did with Jared Goff. Like, I am so that I cannot get that out of my mind. And for people who are listening, Jared Goff was the emergency third quarterback. They were not going to let him play. And so my thing is, it may come down to Aiden O'Connell and how he performs during training camp. Because if they go in and Fernando Mendoza is the number 2, I keep telling people, that means he's one concussion protocol away from going into a game. If Kirk Cousins has to sit out for it, Kirk Cousins comes out of the game for a minute, the backup quarterback goes in, and if Fernando goes in, it's going to be hard to get him off the field, because you can't say, well, if he's not ready, then why is he out there? Okay, what's the problem? What's the situation here when he's out there for Kirk Cousins, who's banged up, and then you're just supposed to switch positions back? No, it doesn't work that way. So, this competition is going to be one that I will be looking at a little more intensely than I probably would in years past, because this is really, I think, a competition. And we will be able to sit back and watch, and we'll know. And the thing is, you can't fool players. The players will know too. And I think this is a huge decision on who decides to get that starting nod, because if you're saying Fernando's ready, that means that you're ready to win. So you can't go out there and start Fernando if you're not ready to win right now. And if Kirk Cousins goes out there and start, you're also saying we're ready to win, but we're also got the guy who's ready right now who can get us in the position to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, and our long-range quarterback too is that guy. So yes. It'll be really interesting to see how this all gets handled, and can't wait to be out there watching practices with you. And I know that if you're in Houston, that's going to be a hot, muggy day, but it's going to be a telling day, and I can't wait to it. But we're not going to skip steps, Kirk Morrison.
No, we're not. We're
going to dominate every next step, and you do that always. And I really want to say thank you for joining us today. As always, take care of yourself, and I will see you down the road. I truly appreciate it, my brother.
All good. Let's dominate the next hour. How about that?
Absolutely. We're ready to do it, man. We're ready to do it.
Thanks,
that's
Vinny.
Kirk Morrison. Yeah, absolutely. That's Kirk Morrison, and it's a very interesting decision that the Raiders are going to have to make. But I do think they're going to make it on Fernando Mendoza's, running his race. Kirk's running his race, and they're gonna handle that. I think the right people are in place to make those decisions. I'm Vinny Bonsignore, sitting in for JT the Brick. We are here till 2:00. Give us a call, 702-365-9200.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
Our thanks again to Kirk Morrison. Ari, we got something to talk about, right?
We do.
It's summer, it's vacation time, and there's some money that could be had, right?
Oh, yeah. Big shout-outs to Terribles. They brought back the Summer of Fun. So we're celebrating. And this week is a trip to South Dakota, which is just letting you know, estimated at $1,800 to $2,800 on the total there. Just letting you know. So you got that hooked up. Right now, put it on the text line, 702-365-9200. The word is RED. R-E-D. RED. Just that simple. And just text that. No fancy stuff. Just RED. There you go.
Okay.
702-365-9200. And you will be in the running to win that.
Good luck to everybody. I've never been to South Dakota. It's one of the states that I have not been to. I think I'm in the 40s at this point, and that's
Nice.
not one of them. So I got to figure out a way to get up there. By the way,
I
thinking
know a
about
way.
Red. Yeah. Thinking about Red, I wrote a column over the weekend on 49ers wide receiver. They wear red. Brandon Ayuk. And, man, it's every day now. There's another social media post. Ari, I don't know how much you've been watching that. And, on one hand, it's easy to laugh at it, and find some humor in it. Like, come on, dude, what are you doing? But on the other to me, there's an underlying seriousness. I think he's going through something. Talking to some people in the league, and they kind of feel like there's something going on that's serious. And somebody needs to. Number one, he's cost himself millions of over $30 million, and there's probably going to be the potential for the 49ers to retroactively go back and get some of the money that they've already paid him because of his actions. But it feels like somebody close to him needs to sit him down somehow, some way, and say, hey, look, what you're doing, the path that you're on right now, it's not working. If you need some help beyond just guidance and professional guidance, maybe it's time to go get that. And honestly, I'm saying that because out of concern for him, because something's not adding up right now based on his actions. It's Vinny Bonsignore, JT the Brick Show, 702-365-9200.
It's the JT the Brick Show.
You just get up every day and you take one step at a time and you keep going and you show up. We have a big mountain to climb, but we're not trying to do it all in one day.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years.
It's really important to me that we're a gritty team, that the way that they were back in the old days. It's nothing that we say, it's what we do on the field. All the little things that win that have nothing to do with scheme.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
What's your advice? What have you been speaking to him regularly?
Yeah, I talk to him all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I ask questions about what he needs in terms of his development. And again, I see it as three different buckets. There's a physical development, the actual skill, throwing the football, dropping, how you're training, how you're eating, all the physical parts. There's the mental part. What do you know about the plans? What do you know about all the plays, your reads, your drops, your footwork, the strategy? How can I teach you and develop you all the toolkits you're going to need to get us in the right play? And then the emotional part is, I think, always the touchy part about sports and athletes. The emotional part of all of us, that one day we perform great and the next day it's still the same guy. We still are smart, but emotionally, we just don't feel that good today. Why not? Why can't we repeat great performance every day?
That's Tom Brady talking about Fernando Mendoza and the kind of pivotal role that Tom Brady has played, in Fernando Mendoza coming here in the first place as the first pick overall, along with, obviously, John Spytek, Brandon Yergin, Brian Starks, the Brandon Hunt, everybody that was involved in that decision. It was a group decision. Ultimately, it was made by, John Spytek and Tom Brady. But there was a group effort to get them to that point, and Tom's voice was as valid as everybody else's. And now, moving forward, the role that he can play in the development of Fernando Mendoza. Now, a couple things. You don't want too many chefs in the kitchen. It's difficult enough for Fernando Mendoza. It's going to be difficult enough, I should say, and this isn't a Fernando Mendoza issue. It's a college quarterback going to the NFL issue. That's difficult enough as it is, with the multiple voices that are going to be guiding him through this, whether it's, Clint Kubiak, whether it's Andrew Janocko, the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coaches, there's going to be more than enough support and guidance and coaching and development from the coaches that are on staff. Now you throw in Tom Brady, and you want to guard against him being overwhelmed, and I know the Raiders are very cognizant of that, and kind of streamlining the message and making sure that you're not overwhelming this rookie quarterback with an overload of information. But what I like about the Tom Brady element is that he has literally been through this. Number one, the coaches, every one of them, has gone through the process of coaching up a young, heralded prospect. So you go through all of their histories, and they've all had a hand in the development of a young quarterback. So they know it from that perspective. Tom knows it from a player's perspective on kind of what that overload moment might be, and so he's going to pick and choose when he steps in, and a lot of that is probably going to be dependent on Fernando reaching out to him. And it was interesting hearing Tom described some of their conversations and some of the help that he can provide to him and what he's going to be looking at, and breaking it down in various ways of the physical part, the mental part, the emotional part. And that's something that I think can often go overlooked, from a fan's perspective, and sometimes from an organizational perspective. I think the really good organizations understand, and Tom, having played the position and understanding, I would say, the danger of a young player, or any player really, if we're thinking about that, living on a roller coaster ride. And you cannot have that. You just can't have, I don't care if it's your starting left guard or your long snapper. At this level, and I always equate sports to life too. You think about the worst periods of your life. We're probably involved some sort of an emotional roller coaster that you're on, right? You're up, you're down, you're sad, you're happy, you're this, you're that. You're questioning yourself. You're amazed by yourself. Then there's despair about yourself. What am I doing? It's just it's natural. We can get in our own heads, is what it is, and you can live and die by sometimes the short-term outcomes that are occurring, and and be barreling down one direction, and all of a sudden you're going in another direction. There's ways to look at that. I remember Phil Jackson said, "Hey, find the middle. Find the middle, whether it's going great or going bad. Stay in the middle, because this way you eliminate tumbling too far in one direction or too far in the other direction. Just find that middle ground and live there and be there, and don't be a victim of whatever highs and lows, because invariably in athletics and in life, you're going to experience highs and lows. But you have to absorb each as even keel as possible. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy the wins and feel the pains of the losses. You have to. You're human, and that's a big part of that. Because if you're allowing yourself to enjoy the wins, you're going to try to do that as much as possible and do whatever you have to do to enjoy those moments, to be able to have more of those moments. And conversely, if you die a little bit, which you should in terms of not really, but you know what I'm saying, when bad things happen, when a loss happens, that's okay too. You can't dwell on it. You can't get caught in that, but you should feel some short-term pain, and then do everything possible to avoid experiencing that pain again. Not that you're going to eliminate it 1,000% or 100%, but the whole goal would be, I'm going to minimize. I don't ever want to feel like that again after a game or after a play. So I'm going to do everything humanly possible to avoid that, and I'm going to do, conversely, everything humanly possible to chase those great highs that you get from winning. But the old saying goes, and whether it's the outcome of a game or a play, there's a time and place for everything. There's, give it the 24-hour rule. You enjoy the wins, you dwell on the loss, give it 24 hours, and then move on, baby. That is over with. Whether it was good or bad, that is over with. I always tell this story. I went on a caravan with some Laker players or Dodger players years ago. I don't know who out there remembers Matt Kemp, the great Dodger slugger. I think he ended up winning an MVP or was a runner-up for an MVP. He was a really good player, excellent player. And so one day on this assignment, I went on a caravan, and part of that was just hanging out with him. He was on the bus. We were sitting next to each other on the bus, talking about life, all this. Going from they went to a police department, a fire department. They went to a car salesman, a car dealership. They went to the beach and picked up, this was all in one day. Picked up trash at Santa Monica Beach, and with at each stop, obviously there were fans, and it was just how you do that. You're spreading the word about the Dodgers. And at one point, we ended up at Taft High School in Woodland Hills, and he goes to talk to the softball team, and it was the girls' softball team, and they were beyond excited because here's this great Dodger player that is talking to him, and one of the girls asked Matt, "Hey, do you remember your first few at-bats or your first couple of games?" And he goes, "Yeah, absolutely." And, "Well, what happened? How was it?" And he's like, I was terrible. It was like he got out his first however many bats. This might not have been in order, but it was probably a couple of games put together. But he basically said that he was terrible. And, I struck out, I got out, and each time I go back to the dugout, I'm just pissed off, hurt, and oh, wow. And he's like, yeah, I didn't get off to a good start, and then, but on my final at-bat, I got the game-winning hit. And they're like, oh, that's great. And he's like, yeah, and that's the point, is that had I carried each of those bad at-bats into the next at-bat, there's no way I would have been able to do what I ultimately did, which was go up there with the game on the line and make it happen, because I would have been in my own head, living in the moments, the bad moments that led up to that moment. And so you have to be able, and this is where I think Tom Brady is going to help Fernando Mendoza in terms of that mental part of it, where enjoy the good moments, but do it in an appropriate manner. Don't get too high from that. Move on to the next moment. And conversely, don't dwell on the bad. Yes, you should feel some pain if you throw an interception. You should feel dumb, stupid, whatever. I hate using those two words, but you know what I'm saying. Like if it was your mistake, own it, acknowledge it, be pissed off about it, blame yourself, throw whatever the monitor or the computer screen that you have there on the sidelines, throw it down if you have to, but then quickly move on. Give it it's the moment that it deserves, but not a moment more than that, because that will affect your next play when you go back. If you're taking that onto the field, then you're doing yourself and the team a disservice. In baseball, it's saying don't make one bad at bat become 2 or 3 bad at bats by taking that emotion from that first at bat into the second bat and third at bat. That's how you get into a slump, by the way, is because you can't get out of your head. And I know it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. We've all been there, whether it's Little League, high school, college, whatever level you've played. If you've had a bad day at work, if you had a bad moment at work, maybe you screwed up at work and you got called into the boss's office, right? And they're telling you, hey, we can't have this happen again, right? And if you walk out of that office, you should feel how you're going to feel, but you have to quickly get over that and say, well, I'm not going to let that happen again. And how do I not make that happen again? How do I ensure that that's not going to happen again? Is by learning from it, figuring out what I did wrong, acknowledging it, listening to the criticism in a healthy way and not a negative way, and saying, I'm going to make sure that never happens again. Doesn't guarantee that you will, but if you take that approach, you're going to put yourself in a much better position not to get called back into the boss's office. Conversely, if you go back out there with a bad attitude or dwelling on it, and all of a sudden now it's seeping into your psyche and all that, you're going to do yourself a real disservice. There's an interesting, if you think about learning how to be a race car driver. All right, Ari, I don't know if you've heard this, but there was a self-help book I read one time, and it was about how when you're a race car driver, when you're learning how to be a race car driver, you want to know what the first thing that they teach you, or one of the first things that they teach you, Ari? What would you think it is?
Pay attention. I don't know. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there is a lot going on. There's a lot going on, but when it comes to your safety, there's one very key thing going on. If you get into a spin out, all right? If you go into when you go into a spin out, the thing that you want to avoid is the wall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't want to run into the wall, and it's
good advice.
We're laughing, but it's the truth. That's where the damage can really happen. Like when you slam into that wall, bad things can happen, right? Yeah. And so what they teach you to do is look away from the wall. Look anywhere else but the wall. Why? Because you usually end up where you're looking. So if you're focused away from the wall, somehow, some way, you're going to steer yourself away from the wall. If you're focused on the wall, if you're focused on the negative, the bad, you're going to somehow, some way steer yourself right into that wall. So in life or athletics, if a bad thing happens or you have to change your focus the next at bat, the next time you go out on the field, the next rep, whatever it is. You can't carry that into your next rep. Whatever bad happened, you have to steer yourself away from the wall, or else you're going to crash back into that wall or crash into that wall, and you're going to have a bad rep's going to turn into a bad practice. A bad practice is going to turn into 2 straight bad practices. And then all of a sudden you're looking at the depth chart going out to practice and going, why am I the second team guy, not the first team guy? Well, you've had a bunch of bad practices. That's why, and you contributed to it. And obviously, talent plays into it, but not having the right attitude on how to handle success, and more often than not, it's actually the failure. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to have great days all the time. You're not going to win every single rep. When I see that, it's so pronounced, and it's so. I have a pet peeve with this. I go to the Senior Bowl pretty much every year, and the Senior Bowl are senior college players that get invited by the NFL. It's the Senior Bowl, but they work in conjunction with scouts, and it's the best seniors in the country that are getting ready to go into the draft. And they go down to Mobile, Alabama. They get invited, so it's let's just say 45 players on each team, so close to 100 of the best seniors in college football, all of whom basically are going to get drafted in the draft. All right, and so you end up seeing tremendous talent to the point where Aaron Donald is from the University of Pittsburgh is going one-on-one against Zach Martin. Who's on his way to the Hall of Fame. Both players are going to be Hall of Famers with the now the Dallas Cowboys, but was a tackle guard coming out of Notre Dame. Right, these are 2 tremendous players that are both going into the Hall of Fame. And you watch them in their reps, and this happens every single year where you see this All-American versus that All-American, and it could get deceiving because if you're watching on Twitter, if you're following on Twitter, hey, the All-American guard or the All-American tackle from Michigan or Notre Dame or the University of Miami, or the defensive end, the All-American defensive end from Alabama or Oklahoma or whatever. You're not going to win every rep in that setting. I'm just telling you that. Why? Because the other guy's pretty good too. And Martin versus Aaron Donald, everyone was watching that, and both of them won their reps, and both of them looked silly a couple of times, right? Because they're going against a supremely talented player. That's what the Senior Bowl is all about. It's talent against talent. It's talent cornerbacks against wide receivers, offensive guards against linebackers, all defensive tackles, nose guards against centers. They put you in that position, and you get, I wouldn't say exposed, but you're going to get, because the other side is good too, the guy that's lining up across from you, wherever that might be, you're going to have some good moments and you're going to have some bad moments. And it's always funny to me, Ari, because you'll go through Twitter after practice and you'll see somebody put out a bad rep for this All-American offensive tackle, and everybody that watched on Twitter, if you didn't see the other 15 reps that he did really good on, you see this one where he got steamrolled over on that guy's way to making a sack, or what would have been a sack, and you're like, oh, that guy stinks, and you're like, well, no, he doesn't stink. It's just that's life at the Senior Bowl. You're not gonna win every single rep. And you didn't see that whoever put that out on Twitter didn't put the previous 10 reps where that guy dominated too. So it could be very deceiving. But again, the point is that you're not going to win every single rep. But you have to keep that in perspective and move on to the next rep. And Ari, an old offensive line coach, told me this one time, and I asked him, what is your grading system, right, for your offensive linemen? Everyone has a grading system, and some are pretty intricate. Some, in this guy's case, was very basic. You either make the block or you don't. Look, okay. And if you make this percentage of the blocks successfully in your, let's just say, 75 reps, right, in the game, let's just say there were 70 reps, offensive reps that particular day. If you make this percentage of blocks successfully, you're helping us win. When you fall below that percentage right here, now we may need to start thinking about making a change, and that goes across the season, across every game, and so I said, okay, that makes sense. You make the block or you don't. I don't care. And he's like, I don't care how you even do it. Sometimes just get it done. Just make your block. And if you do that successfully enough, this percentage of the time, you are a player that's helping our cause and helping us win, and you're going to be in good standing.
And I said, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say an older coach using essentially analytics is an interesting thing. I'm surprised.
Yes, exactly.
It's good, though.
And I go, okay, I get it. But are there allowances for, hey, this week this offensive tackle is going up against Nick Bosa, and then the next week he's going up against the third stringer from whoever, right? Because the top two guys on that team that particular week got hurt, and so they're not even in there. So is there a curve that you're grading this on? Because sometimes you're going to line up against against Nick Bosa or Myles Garrett, and some weeks it's not going to be that caliber of player. So when you're lining up against the top guys, are you giving them a little bit of allowance when you look at that percentage? And he looked me square in the eye. And he said, Vinny, you either make the bleeping block or you don't. I don't care who that is. We will look at the percentages, and if you're completing this percentage of blocks successfully, you're helping us win. And if you fall below this percentage, we're probably going to be looking at a replacement. So I was like, it can't get any any easier than that, or any just bottom line is that.
Yeah.
But I love it, right?
Right to the point, yeah. I I will say, because it's a little bit for me, I'm listening, and I'm like, I don't know if that always works out. But then again, if you stick to it 100% and just as many Nick Bosas or Max Crosby's, I'll throw out there, as there are third stringers and whatnot, situations like that, I guess technically that would all average out, right? Because you can't say the same thing, well, how many, I went up a bunch of third stringers for the 4 games I played and kicked butt, went above the average, but then... so it should all even out, right?
Ari, you either make the bleep and block or you don't, man. That's it. I'm not even looking at who that other player is.
I know he didn't say bleeping.
I know. No, he did not. There were actually a string of them. But the bigger point being is that because there is that percentage, there's an accounting for the fact that you're not going to dominate every single rep. But if you want to put yourself on the fast track to falling below that percentage, that's required for you to be a contributing member of a winning operation, is to wallow in your mire after a bad rep and go back to the huddle thinking about that bad rep, and then go back to the line of scrimmage for the next play thinking about that rep, how you just got your ass kicked basically on national TV, giving up that sack or whatever. Your guy blew up the run, the run play. And if you're going to take that, disappointment in yourself to the next play, that percentage is guaranteed to start falling in the wrong way. Rather than saying, okay, look, and this is what a good coach will tell those guys. I understand that's going to happen. All right, that is going to happen. You're going to get beat. It's the NFL. Those guys get paid well. Just remember those percentages, and keep an eye on that. But don't get in your own head when there's a mistake that you make, or you just got physically beaten on that particular play. Come to the sideline. We can figure it out there. We'll take a look at the film on Monday and Tuesday and try to fix it then. But forget about it at this moment. We will take care of it at the appropriate time, whether it's on the sideline, whether it's at practice, when we get back to practice on Wednesday, or looking at it on film on Monday and Tuesday. We will address it then, and we'll talk about it during the game as well. But I can't have you on a second down where you got blown up and our running back just got dropped for a 3-yard loss because of you, whether you went the wrong way or you got physically beat, whatever the case is, and gave up, and now we're in second and now we're in 3rd and 13. I cannot have you take that disappointment in yourself and whatever, frustration, anger, and so that it clouds your thinking. So now on 3rd and 13, I got to worry about where you are mentally. Move on from it. We'll get it fixed, and we'll praise you when it's going good too. But move on from that as well. So kind of an interesting, human nature that exists in professional sports and in life. And who better than Tom Brady to talk to Fernando Mendoza and be able to guide him through that. Now, I will say this too, Ari. I don't know. I could be completely wrong. I had lunch the other day with an NFL general manager, and we were talking about Fernando. He's a general manager from another team, and I was asking him, how would you handle whether to start him or not start him, and what would go into your decision making and all that. And one thing that he had mentioned that has to be a consideration is, how do you feel about the player from a mental standpoint? So, for instance, if there are, and invariably there will be, growing pains, and early on you figure that there's going to be more growing pains than not. If you feel like, is that going to affect him? Are those growing pains, are those bad moments, bad games, bad sequences, maybe even getting physically beat up a little bit, is that going to knock him off stride? Is that going to affect him? Are you at risk of losing the player because he's not able to successfully deal with those moments? And my answer to him was, it's got to be part of the consideration. But I feel like, and we'll talk about this on the other side, I feel like Fernando is one of those unbreakable dudes. I really believe that. Going back to his history at Cal, some of the growing pains that he experienced at Indiana, how he kept getting better, and it wasn't always great at Indiana, and always got better and got better and got better, and never was broken by the bad moments, and there were bad moments. So that would be the last thing that I would be worried about with Fernando Mendoza. It's Vinny Bonsignore, JT the Brick. On the other side, we will be talking to our good friend Sam Gordon from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by M Resort Spa and Casino, the official hotel of the Las Vegas Raiders.
But once you're selected, it doesn't matter. Now you're just a member of the team. Yeah. Now you have to develop him. And I think most people, and there are probably a lot of fans, they think just because you get a player on the team, well, now he's going to be great. No, there's a lot of development that still needs to happen. Like I said, my first year, I got drafted 199. By my second year, it didn't matter where I was drafted. Yeah. Now I was going to go kick ass. So, to me, I don't give if you're the first round.
That's Tom Brady talking about the development, which is the key to everything. The key to the Raiders' success down the road is all tied in to the development, maximizing the asset that is Fernando Mendoza. And to talk about that and many other things, our good friend Sam Gordon, who is now back in Las Vegas after his foray into the Bay Area, San Francisco, covering the Golden State Warriors. Sam, first of all, thanks for joining us. How has it been getting reacclimated to Las Vegas?
First and foremost, Vinny, very much appreciate you having me. It's great to reconnect. Great to talk again. It's been smooth. I started back at the Review-Journal on June 8th, right in time for Raiders minicamp a couple weeks ago. So all things considered, I feel like I've hit the ground running. It feels great to be back. Vegas was home to me for 7 great years. It still feels that way. And, I'm certainly enjoying the little bit of downtime, right? Very little downtime on the NFL calendar. I'm definitely enjoying this downtime that we have here. I cannot wait for Raiders training camp. It definitely feels like the franchise is at a major inflection point, and that was part of the appeal in me coming back to Las Vegas. So all is well. Great to reconnect and excited to be back in Las Vegas for sure.
And full disclosure, he's not replacing me at the Las Vegas Review-Journal, but he is following me and he's going to do better than I ever did. And you know how I feel about you, so that comes straight from the heart. So I'm always going to be rooting for Mr. Sam Gordon, but I am going to pull a Tom Brady right here, and I'm going to call a little bit of an audible because we're going to get into what Tom just said about Fernando and Fernando's importance and the Raiders, but. We'd be remiss not to talk about one of our favorite subjects, and that is the NBA. And you, of all people, having covered the Warriors for the last 3 years? Or it's been multiple years. I don't remember exactly how many years, but you've been on that beat for a little while. And all I'm seeing on my timeline is the possibility of LeBron James and Anthony Davis going to the Warriors. Is this just crazy talk, or do you feel like, based on what you know of the Warriors and how they operate, that there's a legitimate chance that this could actually happen?
Well, first, it's an honor and privilege to follow in your footsteps, and you're right. Nobody can replace you, but I'm going to do the
No.
to follow your lead. Second, we know Joe Lacob, right? We know what Joe Lacob wants to do. He's if there's a big game hunting opportunity, the Warriors are going to at least put feelers out there and see what they can do. I know the interest in LeBron James is absolutely legitimate. Now, there's going to have to be a multiple maneuverings in order to make that happen. But one of those, became official today, with today being Draymond Green's opt-out deadline. He's opting out of his contract. That creates some flexibility. We also know that Draymond Green, LeBron James, great friends, and Anthony Davis as well, all represented by Clutch Sports and Rich Paul. So I think where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, does that mean this is going to happen? Not necessarily, right? I think this just as equally could be a kind of a leverage play on their end to see if they can extract the max contract offer for Anthony Davis from the Washington Wizards, and to see if there's interest, from the Lakers in bringing LeBron James back in any substantive way around Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves and what they were able to establish there, that momentum they were able to build as a trio down the stretch of the regular season. But no, all things considered, if they can make that happen, I think the key to this is Washington, right? Is Washington willing to part ways with Anthony Davis, because that he would backstop those guys defensively, Steph Curry, LeBron James, and Draymond Green, and increase that upside tenfold in terms of what they were able to do in terms of their postseason situation. And be an older team, be a team that would be an advanced age, but that you'd be betting on just getting into the dance, trying to be healthy then, and seeing how far you could go. So I think the interest is legitimate, and the free agency starts tomorrow, and a lot of moving parts are going to come with it. So definitely an exciting time in the NBA, and a chance for the Warriors where they feel like they can become players in a very material way if they're able to pull this off.
All right, that's where I want to go, and last one on the NBA. Let's say that does happen. Let's just play it out. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Draymond Green would be a shoo-in to sign back at that point. I don't care that he opted out. That doesn't mean that he's not going back. All right, so that's your quartet right there, right? Am I using that word correctly? Your top four guys would be those four guys. How close, or does it put them to legit contention with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs and everybody else, I guess, in the West?
I guess, if that group is healthy, and this is the big caveat, because Steph Curry is going to be 39 by next postseason. LeBron will be 42 by then. Draymond will be 37, and AD will be 34. And now, AD out of that quartet has the richest injury history, all things considered. But the Warriors medical staff is one of the best in the business. Rick Celebrini and his group do a tremendous job. And I guess you could say a puncher's chance. I mean, with that veteran experience, that IQ, I think with Steve Kerr on the sideline, they would feel like they had a chance. But I don't know, Vinny, the youth, the length, the defense that both those teams possess, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander entering his prime years, Victor Wembanyama, just scratching the surface of his capabilities, and you figure he's going to learn from this experience. Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, and those guys, I think they'd still be on the lower rung of Western Conference contenders. But if you're the Warriors, I mean, they're 37-45 this past season. Just to get in the dance and feel like you have a shot would be, I think, a victory in and of itself. And the live gate that they would get every single night at Chase Center, I think would certainly be part of this equation as well, factoring it in. If you might as well if you're going to be an older basketball team, which they already are, you might as well go all in and lean in on it. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they're kicking the tires on this, but I don't think it pushes them past those two teams in a series at all with their youth, their experience, and their defensive versatility up and down the lineup.
I feel like we got to come up with a different name than the Warriors, because to me they would be the most popular team among those 35 and over rec leagues out there, and they're all over, right? I mean, it just when you just put it in perspective without even it just came off the top of your head. 39, 43, 37, and how old is Anthony? I mean, Anthony's the young kid now, but he's still.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be 34, right? Yeah, and I think this is getting ready for his 14th or 15th NBA season, so it'd be a veteran crew. It would be important to plug in some youth around those guys. You got Brandon Podziemski, of course, if provided he wouldn't be part of a potential trade package to Washington. You got Moses Moody coming back off of patellar tendon. They just drafted Yaxel Landenborg. I don't know if he would be part of a trade calculus. If you're Washington, I'd imagine they'd want him as well. But yeah, it'd be the NBA's version of the Expendables, and at the very least, right, it would be must-see box office theater for 82 games or whatever you're able to extract out of a postseason run as well.
Yeah, completely agree. We're talking to the great Sam Gordon now with back with the Las Vegas Review-Journal, covers the Raiders and is going to be doing some boxing, and I can't wait to catch up with him on the practice sideline in Houston, wherever our paths will cross. It's going to be fun times. But I'll tell you who's not over 30 years old, and that's Fernando Mendoza, the Raiders, quarterback of the future and maybe the present. And I've asked this to a lot of different people out there. I'm going to ask you this. When you get to training camp, and I know that it's not going to, for him, look perfect and done, finished, ready to go day one. That's going to be a process. But when you get to training camp and you start looking at the decision that looms for the Raiders in terms of who that starting quarterback is going to be, are you looking at it more as a straight-on competition between Fernando and Kirk Cousins, or are you looking at it as, hey, Fernando, don't even worry about that necessarily. It's your race. You got to run your race. Don't worry about quote-unquote competition with Kirk Cousins, and see where that race gets him at the end of training camp, and whether that puts him, in your eyes, ready to start game one or not. Or are you, hey, how do you look compared to Kirk Cousins, and just go with that to be the final determining factor?
I think the latter, Vinny. Fernando Mendoza running his own race, right? And let's go back to the sound we played before I came in with Tom Brady. The greatest quarterback of all time, maybe the greatest, one of the greatest North American athletes of all time. Didn't really play as a rookie, right? Patrick Mahomes, currently the most accomplished quarterback in the NFL. He got the Week 17 or Week 18 start, or however many games there were back in 2017, his rookie season. Didn't really play. Aaron Rodgers, right? One of the best quarterbacks of the modern era. Sat behind Brett Favre for years. That's the old school playbook. There was merit in letting your prized rookie quarterback stay on the sideline, get the mental reps, and learn that way playing behind an accomplished veteran. This is, he far and away is the most important figure in the franchise right now. The one thing you don't want to do is throw him out there in a situation where, one, he's not necessarily ready to go, and two, the team around him isn't necessarily ready to go. So I think the calculus that they have in place, right, bringing Kirk Cousins in on a $20 million deal, him coming from a situation where he just was ahead of a rookie quarterback in Atlanta. Now, again, he made it abundantly clear it's not his job to mentor or tutor Fernando Mendoza per se, just like Clint Kubiak said the exact same thing. But he is an example of a guy who he himself, one of the more statistically accomplished quarterbacks. You look at the 4,000-yard seasons, the 30-touchdown seasons. You look at what he was able to do with the Minnesota Vikings, winning a road playoff game as a starter in the NFL in the Superdome. Not an easy thing to do. He himself sat for multiple years in that situation in Washington, his rookie season, behind Robert Griffin III. And conversely, you look at Robert Griffin III, as incredible as his rookie season was, took a pounding, got hurt, and was never quite the same. Quarterback. So I don't think there should be any pressure organizationally on Fernando Mendoza to be a day one starter, and I don't think necessarily he should feel any of that pressure. The bottom line is getting the team in place for him ready to go. He's going to learn whether or not it's Kirk Cousins' job to tutor him or not. He's going to learn by seeing the habits, the focus, the mentality that has made Kirk Cousins a 15-year NFL player and one of the richest players in NFL history. And when that time is ready, when he is ready to go, when the Raiders are ready to go, be that week 1, if that's the calculus, if that's the conclusion they come to, be that week 10, be that week 1 of the 2027 season. It's about running his race, making sure he's absolutely ready to go, and ironing out everything that needs to be smoothed over, whatever that may be. This is the NFL. He's going to face some resistance in training camp. He should face resistance in training camp. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. That's how you get better. And that's why Kirk Cousins is in place. A veteran who's been there, done that, seen every situation that you can think of in the NFL, and somebody that showed down the stretch with the Atlanta Falcons last year still has a little bit of good football left in him. So it feels like the Raiders have a plan in place. Let's see how that comes out when training camp starts, the pads come on, and they get to clanging and banging.
Talking to Sam Gordon from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Let me just throw one curveball at you on that, which was very astute, everything that you just said. But can I make the argument that if you look at Patrick Mahomes, that was a playoff team that he went to with the Chiefs with an established quarterback like Alex Smith. So were the Green Bay Packers. So were the New England Patriots, by the way, that Tom Brady went to. They had a really good quarterback. They weren't drafting him to be the starter whatsoever. They had his name is escaping me, but Drew Bledsoe was in place, right? The Packers had Brett Favre. They were a playoff team. Does it change your calculus a little bit that that's not even close to being the case with the Raiders? They are a team that won 3 games last year, and they are a developing team as well. So there aren't any expectations. Like if you were to put Aaron Rodgers above Brett Favre or Patrick Mahomes above Alex Smith at that time on a play, you're putting guys that might not be ready, not only from just playing standpoint, but now the expectation standpoint. Why would you even think about doing that when you had what you had in place? Do you think the Raiders could look at that a little bit differently given their circumstance, so that if they feel like it's even close between he and Kirk, maybe he's not – Maybe Kirk is a little bit ahead.
Though he shepherded the Broncos to a championship, wasn't the same player anymore. It can happen overnight. So all things that the coaching staff is going to have to assess. You have to certainly like what the Raiders did in understanding who Fernando Mendoza is and understanding the need to protect him by going out there and getting Tyler Linderbaum, an established center, one of the best in the league, pairing him with Colton Miller on the left side to anchor that offensive line. But if there's any questions whatsoever about what that offensive line looks like, what the skill guys around him are going to look like, because I think that's still a work in progress too. You know what Brock Bowers is capable of, but some competition on the outside and the inside of that receiving group, establishing continuity there. If there's any question marks whatsoever, I don't think there's any shame in slow playing this with Fernando Mendoza, just because he isn't the week 1 starter, to your point, Vinny. Maybe week 8, week 9, week 10, the calculus is a little different, but you want to make sure he is in the best situation for success. And if it comes down, down the stretch of the season where there's merit to him getting real consequential experience, and there certainly will be, right? We don't want to take away the value of him getting out there and playing real NFL games his rookie season, what he could draw from that. I just don't think that the organization should feel rushed, or he should feel rushed, or the need to necessarily win that competition right out of the gate. I think it'll kind of show itself when he needs to play, and right now, with Kirk Cousins getting that paycheck, that $20 million paycheck, and what he showed in Atlanta, it would make sense that he's ahead in that race right now and see what he gives you coming out of the gate.
Last question for Sam Gordon from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and I appreciate his time. I know it's hard to say this right or answer this right now, and it might be an entirely different answer that you would have come January 10th or so when this regular season has been wrapped up. But as you sit here today, how do you think, maybe I'll ask it that way, how do you think you're going to assess ultimately whether this was a positive season for the Raiders or not?
I think are you seeing development from the young players, right? Is there continuity on the offensive line? Because, aside of Fernando Mendoza and what he gives you long term, I think that's very clearly the kind of the second most important marker or barometer for what kind of team they're going to put together. Are those young guys on the offensive line getting better, kind of gelling around those veterans? And is there week to week kind of big picture improvement, right, under Kubiak and what he wants to do? Are you establishing the right kind of culture and brand of football that wants to be played? I know that can be, kind of a hard thing to quantify if the wins aren't there, but everything about the way the Raiders played this offseason made it abundantly clear that, hey, they realize they're in a real rebuild right now. They're not trying to shortcut anything. They didn't, push all this draft capital in for veteran players. There's no kind of win now pressure. It's about establishing a foundation for the way they want to play, what they want the culture of this organization to look like, and developing young players, rookies and second-year players that can be contributors at the end of their rookie contracts and put themselves in position to be impact players, for second contracts as well. So if winning games comes along with that, if the Raiders, surprise some people, they're playing the last place schedule, if the defense should be much improved with some of their free agent additions, if you happen to win some games along the way and are on the outside of looking in of a possible wild card berth, not that that's what I'm expecting by any means, but if that happens, then great. That's winning is a skill. You have to learn how to win in order to do it on a consistent basis. That's great. But all things considered, it's about developing young players and establishing what Clint Kubiak wants this program to look like. He brings, of course, Super Bowl experience over from the Seattle Seahawks. He's seen what that looks like firsthand. And, Seattle, a great example of a team. They didn't necessarily do a full teardown, but in 2-3 years under Mike McDonald, very quickly able to pivot where they were at, get young players in place, develop them, and then when it came time to win, they brought in Sam Darnold. He was ready to go, and lo and behold, you have a Super Bowl. So he's got the blueprint. He's seen it up close and personal, and now it's time to put that blueprint in place. And that means, if you can win some games, great, but player development first and foremost, and putting themselves in position to have big picture success, not trying to find any shortcuts like they have under previous regimes.
Sam, I love you, brother, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us and lending your insight, and truly appreciate it. Can't wait to see you down the road, my friend.
My pleasure, Vinny. Talk soon. Appreciate you. Later.
You got it. That's Sam Gordon from the from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. He covers the Raiders and other stuff, including boxing. Want to say thanks to Sam. Want to say thanks to Kirk Morrison. Want to say thanks to our contributors today. Truly appreciate it. Thanks for lending your ear over the last couple of hours. Thank you to JT the Brick. He'll be back tomorrow, I believe. Vinny Bonsignore sitting in for JT the Brick. Check you guys out tomorrow morning on the Morning Tailgate Show.